Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening for our So You Want to Enter the 2023 Thoroughbred Makeover webinar. This meeting is being recorded, so we will upload it to YouTube hopefully tomorrow, if not, definitely by Monday. So if you are watching this later, certainly if you have any other questions that we don't address tonight, you can email those in, and we'll do our best to get to everyone's questions as we go tonight. So my name is Kristen Kovatch Bentley. I am the communications manager for the Retired Racehorse Project, and I'm also a Thoroughbred Makeover former trainer myself. So I competed in 2018, so I have been now on both sides of the event, helping to produce it, but also competing in it as well. So I know what it's like to be a competitor.
Thank you, Kristen. I am Rayna Erasmus. I am the show secretary and program assistant. I am the person that you will be interfacing with throughout the year for pretty much all things makeover related. I have been with the RRP since the beginning of 2020. So this is my fourth makeover application cycle and my third makeover event, thanks to the 2020 postponement and 2021 mega makeover. My background is in social work, and I was able to combine my passions for advocacy and education and outreach with my love for thoroughbreds when I landed my job at RRP. I have not competed in the makeover, but I do have a thoroughbred, urban and beer, and we primarily compete in eventing. So this is our So You Want to Apply webinar. And before we get started, I'm just going to go over some quick housekeeping. We will answer your questions and we welcome questions, but we're going to save those answers until the very end, until we get through everything we have on our agenda tonight. So if you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to post those questions in the comments. And if you're on Zoom, please feel free to use the Q&A feature. But for our returning competitors who are tuning in tonight, we ask that you please do not answer any questions you see the newcomers asking in the comments. We appreciate your help, and we know that it's with the best of intentions, but things do change year to year, and we want to make sure everyone is getting the most accurate information. Speaking of questions, anything that does not get answered tonight, whether it's because you're watching this at a later date or you think of a question at a later date, or perhaps you ask a question tonight that is not related to applications, as we're going to really try to stay on topic tonight. Any questions need to be emailed to me, and that's secretary@therrp.org. I really cannot stress that enough, that you should be emailing me questions. Don't post them in any of our various Facebook groups. Don't be messaging any of our staff on social media or trying to use our Facebook pages or other social media accounts. We do not monitor those inboxes. And if you try to message our personal accounts, we will not answer. The best way to get into contact with us is by emailing, and that's either secretary@therrp.org. You can use this contact us form, which will also probably go to secretary@therrp.org. Or you can call us. Our numbers on our website as well. Our business hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So now that we've got that boring part out of the way, we're going to go quickly over just some basic information, some dates, some resources, and then we're going to dive into looking at the application. I'm going to fill it out with you guys, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So first of all, what is the makeover? The makeover is a retraining competition that has all 10 disciplines that we offer. So let's see if I can do this without looking.
You got to do them in alphabetical order.
I don't know about that. Barrel racing, competitive trail, dressage, freestyle, field hunters, show jumpers, eventing, polo, and ranch.
You forgot mine, ranch work.
I didn't forget, I got it. So obviously the goal is to acquire an eligible horse, and we now have 2 different categories of eligibility this year. That is the retiring racehorse division, which is our standard division. That'll be horses that have had their last race or published work on or after July 1st, of 2021 and have not begun their retraining and remain under 15 post-track rides between that last race or published work until December 1st of 2022. So we just hit the beginning of the retraining period a couple weeks ago. So that's the retiring racehorse division. And now we have our new broodmare division. And that will be those that have either foaled or were bred to a jockey club registered stallion in 2021, 22. That one I don't have memorized as well yet.
That one's new for all of us.
Yeah, that's.
I'm going to check in the rule book.
Yeah, why don't you check for me on that one? Here we go.
What Rayna's doing right now is a prime example of, if you're not 100% sure about the answer to something, chances are it is in our rule book. We spend a lot of time writing and then editing and updating for every year that rule book. That can be found at the rrp.org. It's a pretty comprehensive document. It is a lot of reading, but it is worth sitting down and giving that a read through before you start the application for sure. And you'll end up referencing it several times throughout the year. So keep that link handy.
Yeah, and just throughout our website, right? As I'm trying to figure that out, if I just scroll down, like right there, what horses are eligible to compete on our what is the makeover page. And here is the eligibility criteria for both divisions. So it's have foaled or been bred in the 2021 breeding season or after, as reported by the Jockey Club. They must have had at least one lifetime start or published work. There is no limit as to when that would have been. There is no 15 ride limit, but they must not have, the broodmares must not have competed in any prior shows. So those are our two divisions for this year. They are completely separate in terms of, like, your broodmares are not scored against your retired racehorses and whatnot. But that is our pilot program, broodmare division. We're very excited to see how that pans out this year and to be able to offer that to you guys. So that's the basics of the Thoroughbred Makeover. You know, we're here to promote the versatility of thoroughbreds and all the amazing things that they can do in their second and third careers. And it is, while it is a fantastic event and absolutely we know it's on your bucket list and it's a huge goal, it is not the end all be all. It can be a goal that you have with your horse, but it is not the goal. The goal is to produce a well-trained horse in their second and third career. And we know that, you know, sometimes things go wrong. Horses are horses. And with the best of intentions, not everyone will be able to come in October. So it is important to keep that in mind. We will reference throughout the year to stay in your lane when it comes to training. Everyone's going to develop on their own timeline. So just keep that in mind that, you know, we love to have you guys here and we're super excited that you're interested in applying. But your horses, whether you make it to the makeover or not, we're just happy that you guys have chosen the Thoroughbred. Do you have anything to add to that, Kristen?
Any horse that is part of our program is considered a makeover graduate. So even if you didn't make it to the makeover itself, as long as you registered that horse and put it into our system, it is a makeover graduate if you go through the process. And one thing to keep in mind is that the makeover is put on by the Retired Racehorse Project. That's the name of the organization, and it is part of our charitable mission. So it is not the only thing we do. It is probably the biggest thing we do, and it's where the majority of our time and resources go. But part of that makeover process is, us just getting a handle on where these horses are coming from, where they're going. Registering your horse for the makeover is a really important part of that process, but that is part of our whole charitable mission to promote horses in second careers. And of course, if you're someone like me who you have one chance to go to the makeover because you're not someone who buys and sells a lot of horses, obviously you put so much emphasis on getting there, but being part of the journey is really the most important part of the makeover, not necessarily competing at that show. So keep that in mind. If you're a super competitive person and it's going to be a deal breaker that you don't make it to the makeover, this just may not be the retraining challenge for you. It's not designed for every horse and it's not designed for every trainer. We hope that you'll join us for sure.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've gone a bit over about what is the makeover, I know Kristen already mentioned it, but your holy grail for this year is the rule, and every year is the rule book. Before you ask a question, reference your rule book. 99.99% of the time, the answer is there. There's a few different ways that you can find it. So on our website, the easiest way is if you scroll over this Thoroughbred Makeover tab right here, event information, rulebook. And so this is what the rulebook looks like. It breaks down the application process. It breaks down how to communicate with us. It breaks down the fees and the deadlines, the horse eligibility. It's going to break down the intricacies of every single discipline we offer and what the formats are. That's important to look into as well, because we are a retraining competition. Those disciplines aren't going to look always like a standard competition in your discipline. So that's important to look at as well. It goes over everything you need to know, the arrival exam, finale jogs, truly anything you need to know about participating in this event is probably in the rulebook. We will offer print copies of that through the store as well, but those are not quite yet available. So online is your go-to, and Control F is your friend if you are looking for something in particular and you don't see it on the index. That's a great way to find it as well. So another great resource, if you're looking into applying, is our Want to Apply page. So same thing, you're going to go to Thoroughbred Makeover, event information, about, and Want to Apply. And this is going to give you some basic information, once again, about the event and some really important resources. So here's your rule book again. This right now links to last year's Want to Apply webinar, but we will replace this link with tonight's webinar once that is up and ready. This right here is going to take you to a playlist on our YouTube with videos from the finale competition, if you'd like to see what that's looked like in previous years, and other great videos that we've taken at the event itself. And then we have our sample video. This is super important. The video is a huge part of your application. It's probably going to start with my voice. Let me pause that really quickly. Okay. This is your how to film your application video. If you have not applied, oh, this is what I did not want to if you have not applied yet, and are wondering what you're supposed to do for your videos, I strongly suggest that you go ahead and watch this. We go through the do's and don'ts, what we're looking for in those videos, and we provide you examples of, this would be a good flat video. This would be this wouldn't meet the requirements of a flat video, and we tell you why. Same thing with jumping videos and discipline specific videos. So please give this a watch. Your video is going to be a huge part. It is not the only part, but it is a huge part of your application, and everyone is required to submit video with their application.
And that video needs to be from within the past 2 years, correct?
Yes, within the past 2 years. So at time of submission. So if you submit your application on January 2nd, your video cannot have been taken earlier than January 2nd of 2021. And let's see, and I'll go more into video requirements once we get to that part on the application as well. Another thing we have here is the sample vet reference. That's going to be another requirement. It's really just a basic letter on letterhead from your vet that says, this person is my client and they have the resources and knowledge to help transition a horse from racing into their second or third career. Signed and dated. Returning makeover competitors, you do need a new updated letter every year as well. So that's a bit on the Want to Apply page. That'll also take you to the trainer portal, which is going to be a huge part. It's going to be like your hub for the entire year. It's going to be where you access your application. We have a ton of important dates here as well. Your newsletters, if you're accepted, your newsletters will be posted in here as well, with reminders and other important updates throughout the year. But before I dive into the application, some important dates. So as of today, the application is open for drafting, and that is drafting only, that so that you can get in there, you can start filling it out, have everything ready to go, especially if you're a first timer. You'll be able to see what's expected of you, and it gives you some time to really set your application up for success and give us as much information as you can, and see maybe where you need to go back and find some more information to add to your application. But it is not open for submission. So this is just saving, it's just a preview. That's December 15th through January 1st. As of January 2nd, applications will be open for submission. So between January 2nd and January 20th, you can get in there, get all of your requirements in, and submit your applications. Any applications missing their requirements as of January 20th will be considered incomplete, and will only be considered for the wait list. And that will be after an additional $100 late fee. So after January 20th, that's when we move on to waitlist applications. February 15th is when acceptances will be announced for all those applications that were submitted between January 2nd and 20th with their requirements. The 4 major requirements of your applications are going to be your videos, your vet recommendation letter, your signed participation agreement, and your payment. So first things first, let's go into accessing your application. So you're going to need to get here to the trainer portal, but the way that you're going to do that is you're going to hit, if you already have an account, it's going to say my account here. If you don't have an account, it's going to say log in. So you're going to hit that tab and create an account if you don't have one. If you do, it should look something like this. And then you're going to go to the Thoroughbred Makeover tab. You're going to scroll down here, my application, open my application. And I already have my application open. We've already gone over here, the different dates. And that's also an important thing to note. Our deadlines are always 5 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're on the West Coast, especially, that's something to keep in mind. If you're on Central time, that's something to keep in mind. We no longer operate off of a midnight deadline. It's always going to be 5 p.m. on a business day. So first part of your application is just going to be your basic contact information. You're going to want to check this over, make sure we have the correct email for you. That's going to be our primary communication, especially regarding your application. So you're going to want to make sure that we have a correct email that we're going to be able to reach you at. Same thing with your phone number. One thing we will do throughout the year, if we're reminding you about deadlines, or if we get to the makeover itself and we need to say, hey, you know, you're eligible for, you won X award, we might try to contact you via text message. So you have to indicate here whether or not we can contact you from via text message. Again, your address, verify that as well. Your date of birth. This is not my date of birth, but I'm just going to leave it. This is important that you make sure that's correct as well, because that's obviously going to determine whether you're going to be a junior, and then from there, amateur or professional. So a junior is going to be anyone that will be 18 or under as of December 31st of 2023. And let's see, the next one is important in determining if you are over the age of 18, if you are not going to be competing as a junior. This question right here is going to determine whether or not you're competing as an amateur or a professional. So this is asking if in the past 2 years, have you been compensated in any way for riding, training, or giving lessons? So this would include any type of riding or lessons, include exercise riding at the track, and any type of compensation, including reduced boarder product. So if you have, you're going to hit yes. That's going to make you a professional. If you haven't been compensated for riding, training, or giving lessons in the past 2 years, you're going to hit no, and that's going to make you an amateur. So the experience section, right there along with your videos, this is super important to the application committee and being able to learn about you and your ability to bring along a horse that's retiring. racing and transitioning into a new career. So please answer these questions as accurately as possible and give as much detail as possible to really give the application committee a well-rounded view of your experience. So the first question here is going to be select the discipline that you are most likely to compete in at this year's Thoroughbred Makeover. It's important to note that your answer to this question doesn't mean that you have to compete in that discipline come October. We know that you might select eventing and get a horse and decide, you know what, this horse is not ready to jump. We're just going to do dressage. Or you might get a horse and say, I want to do field hunters, and decide, oh, this horse is not super great around hounds. We're just going to stick to regular hunters. Or you might just end up, getting a horse that you might want to do the show hunters with and decide to try a new avenue and end up doing competitive trail. We totally understand that whatever you select here might not be what you compete in October, but it should be what you plan to compete in and what you have the most experience in, because this is going to determine who is looking at your application. So for me, I would select eventing, and that means that my application is going to be assigned to a committee member with experience in eventing, and my video should reflect my eventing experience as well. Similarly, we asked which division of horse eligibility do you plan on entering? This isn't going to lock you into either the retired racehorse division or the broodmare division. This is really just so we can get an idea and gauge interest in both divisions. So you can either select, I'm entering the retired racehorse division, broodmare division, I might acquire a horse for each, or I have not decided. Whatever you select, it doesn't lock you into that decision. It's just so that we can gauge interest. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to do the retired racehorse division. Next, how long have you been riding? Less than 1 year, 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10, or over 10. How many years of experience you have riding green horses? You're going to have the same selection options over here. How many horses have you been personally responsible for caring for in your life? And this, you can think of it as ownership, or you can think of it as if you've worked at a barn and you've done feed chores. However, whatever you think of, you're responsible for that horse's care. So it doesn't necessarily have to be ownership. How many years have you been riding competitively? Is this going to be your first show season? Is showing and competing not a significant part of your riding activities? And then again, we have 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10, over 10. If you do compete, we're going to ask if you have a show record publicly available with a governing body such as USEF. This is something that's going to be very helpful to the committee as well. So if you do have a show record with a governing body, please select yes and provide us with your ID number. I'm just going to put one in there for the sake of being able to submit this. Then, are you a member of Pony Club? No. Current member, graduate. We have list any equine related affiliations. So this could be a place you volunteer for, 4-H membership, licensed exercise rider. There's some examples over here. So anything you can think of that's a part of, like, different from being a part of a governing body for your discipline. Any other affiliations you may have, you might want to add here. And then we get to the bulk of the experience section, which is where you're going to check off any area that you have significant experience in, which is going to populate a text box for you to expand on your experience in that area. So if I was doing this, I would do dressage, hunters, eventing, box hunting, but there's tons of options here, pretty much anything you can think of. And in these boxes, you're really going to want to expand on your experience in that area. So that might be, I have been riding in X discipline for X number of years. I have competed up to X level. I have taken lessons with, and you can list your coaches over the years. Taken clinics with any significant experience you've had in this area. My most recent show results. So it's important, I would say, if you do compete, to provide your most recent show results, what level you competed at, and then your greatest accomplishment, whether that's competition related or not. That could be, I trained my horse how to leg yield, how to counter canter, flying lead changes. You know, I competed up to X level. I finished on my dressage score in eventing. Whatever your greatest accomplishment is in that discipline, I think that's one great thing to add, as well as your recent show results if you have. But general information such as the years that you've been riding that discipline, what level you've competed or are just training in, who you've taken lessons with, if you are taking lessons in that discipline, if you've done clinics, who you've clinicked with, so on and so forth. Any information that you can provide us about what you do with that discipline. If you're a professional, you can say, I teach lessons in this discipline to X, you know, people, whether that's amateurs, juniors, up to this level of lessons, etc. So that's the kind of information we're looking for here. Do you have anything to add, Kristen, about what you think might be important for people to add in this narrative section?
No, I think that's pretty comprehensive. I do know that we just said that we were going to answer questions at the end, but there's a really relevant question that just came in on Facebook that I'm going to go ahead and answer now from Ariana. She asks, do you take people who don't have a show record with a governing body? Yes, is the short answer. There's a lot of disciplines out there that don't have a governing body that keep results. You know, USCF is a really good example of one that's very easy for us to use. We put in your number and it spits out all your results and it's very convenient. Not every governing body has that available. And then, you know, lots of people are still producing horses independent of a governing body. So like, I guess I'll use myself as an example. Like, I'm out riding our family farm producing ranch horses, but I'm not a member of a governing body for ranch horses. So I don't have, you know, that kind of a show record, but I still got into the makeover, had a great time. So field hunters is another interesting example that, you know, that's not really a competitive discipline, that's a recreational discipline. So definitely just make sure that you are filling out the rest of this resume, so to speak, as comprehensively as you can. But the show record is not a make or break deal.
No, it's definitely not a make or break deal. It's just additional information if you have it. And if you compete in unrecognized shows, that's where you would want to add this information. Like, I compete in such circuit or at such local show, or if you don't compete, I train with so-and-so, or I have my own working ranch and this is what I do on a daily basis. It does not necessarily have to be competition based. We have plenty of people who come into this who really haven't competed before, and obviously they're going to take those 10 months to take their horses off property and maybe get some more show experience, because this is a competition, but you are not required to have competition experience going into this.
We will just say, if you have those results with a governing body, please let us know, because it does make the process a lot easier for us to be able to pull that, you know, and say, oh yes, you know, this person's competed at a meter or whatever, you know, so just include all the information you can.
Exactly. Always the more information, the better. And then we have a bit more the personal narrative section. So if there's anything you feel here that hasn't been sufficiently documented in the rest of the application, whether that's I've brought along X amount of thoroughbreds, or I've done the Mustang makeover, anything that you haven't been able to share with us so far that you think would be really important to the committee, for the committee to know, to show that this is something that you are ready to do, that you have the experience, the resources to be able to properly retrain a horse retiring from racing for such a big competition. Anything you can share, like we just said, the more information, the better. So really anything that you think would be good insight for the committee, please share it with us here. And then simply, why do you want to enter the makeover? Is this a bucket list item for you? Did you find a really cool horse that you think is like you would love to show off at this competition in general? Is this an environment of people that have you done this several years in a row and you've fallen in love with the competition and the environment and the community, and you just keep coming back? Whatever your reason is, you're going to share that with us here. And I'm, again, just not going to waste my time typing there so that we can get through all of this for you guys.
This is how not to fill out your application.
Yeah, please don't do this. All this.
Don't do what Rayna's doing.
We want full sentences here. Do not be like me. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, do you currently or do you plan to work with a trainer or professional during your makeover training process? If so, how frequently and who? Is anyone else helping you along the way? Please provide the names and explain the roles of those involved in your preparation for the makeover. This is super, super important. This is going to show us what kind of support system you guys have going into the makeover. If you are someone that does take lessons regularly already, you're going to want to let us know who you take lessons with, how often, maybe in what disciplines. If you don't, we strongly suggest that everyone works with a professional, even if you are a professional yourself. You might list some people that you would like to do some clinics with, and other people involved that might not be related to lessons at all. Do you have family that's helping you along the way, friends that are there supporting you and cheering you on, anyone that's going to help you get from December to October involved in your support system and make sure that you have overall a good experience, whether or not you end up in Kentucky. That's very important information right there. We want to know about your support system, and we want to know how you're going to be bettering yourself and your horse throughout the process.
I'm going to interject a very quick commercial for our partnership with Ride IQ, which is an audio lesson service. You kind of use it as an app, and you subscribe to their program, and there's literally hundreds of audio lessons available with like top tier professionals. We also have a retiring racehorse series. It's called Thoroughbred Fundamentals, and that's with makeover veteran trainer Aubrey Graham. So there is information under the education tab on our website about Ride IQ. So if you like live in the middle of nowhere and you cannot find a trainer in your discipline of choice near you, or it's just not financially feasible for you to take a lot of regular lessons, I'm just going to go ahead and plug that Ride IQ program because we do have a great partnership with them, and that's a really cool resource. So yeah. Education is for everyone, even if you live far, far away from a trainer or you don't have the means to haul to someone frequently. So,
yep. There's always a way. Ride IQ is really awesome. And then references. So this is going to be two people. They're not going to be not family members or individuals that are employed by you, but they're going to be two people that can speak to your horsemanship and riding ability. So that could be your trainer. That could be a friend that you ride with. That could be someone that you've taken a clinic with. It could be your vet. Anyone that's going to be able to tell us about your horsemanship and your riding ability. And you're going to want to provide, so this is two different people, give us their full name, their email, and their phone number so that we can get into contact with them. And the video section, arguably one of the most important sections. So what you see here is going to be determined off of that discipline selection you made earlier. If you did not select a jumping discipline, so if you selected barrel racing, dressage, ranch work, competitive trail, polo, many others, maybe not many others, but quite a few.
Freestyle.
Freestyle, you're not going to get this jumping video requirement. Instead, you're just going to have the flat video and the discipline video requirement. But what you will need to do, we do not accept file uploads. You have to upload your video somewhere that we can access it with a link, whether that's YouTube or Facebook or Vimeo, something like that, where you can drop a URL here and we're going to be able to access it. What's super important, especially if you're using something like Facebook, make sure that video is set to public. If you're using YouTube, you don't have to necessarily set it to public, but it needs to at least be on unlisted so that we can see it with a link. It happens all the time that someone will post a link to somewhere and they have the privacy settings set so that we can't actually see the video. Or they'll use something like iCloud where the link expires. So be very, very careful about that. Make sure it's something that we're going to be able to access throughout the year. And it's not going to expire like in a week or so. That should be something that we can be able to continually come back to if we need to. So the first thing that absolutely everybody, regardless of what discipline you indicate, needs to show is a flat video. This can be roughly 2 minutes in length, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer, but it needs to show you, most importantly, for all of these videos, it should show you on a well-schooled horse. We don't really want to see you on your makeover hopeful. We want you to see you on something with more retraining under its belt so that we can focus on you when you're riding. And so that the horse's greenness isn't a factor in watching the video. So if you only have your makeover hopeful, this is when you want to reach out to friends, coaches, or even get on a local Facebook group and see if there's somewhere you can go take a lesson with and borrow a well-schooled horse for your video. If you have a friend that'll just let you hop on for the purposes of the video, whatever it is, or maybe you do have a well-schooled horse of your own that you can use. It doesn't necessarily have to be a school master, but it shouldn't be your 3-year-old that is fresh off the track that you've only put about 10 or so rides on at this point. It should really be a horse that will be able to showcase your riding in the best light. So the flat video needs to show walk, trot, and canter in both directions, or walk, jog, lope, and should show transitions between the gaits, as well as a halt. So we really do want to see it all. We don't want to see like one 15-second clip of you cantering in one direction and that's it. We should see all 3 gaits in both directions. We should see upward transitions, downward transitions, change of direction. It doesn't have to be super long, but it should show all of those things. And the video should be filmed horizontally. Please do not film it vertically. It makes it a lot harder for us to see you in frame at all times. And again, it needs to be taken within the past 2 years. So you're going to paste that link to your flat video here, and then you can provide some background information. So it's going to be, I am riding X horse. I have ridden this horse or it could be X number of years or X number of times. This is my first time riding this horse. I've been riding this horse for 5 years. I've ridden this horse a couple times. Their temperament. Breed if you want, age if you want, experience, background. So is this a horse that you are hopping on and kind of doing a bit of dressage with, and their background is more in hunters or jumpers? Are they more of a forward horse? Are they more lazy? Whatever information you can give us. When was the video taken? Was it taken at the ring that you ride in every day? Was it taken in a friend's ring that you've never ridden in before? Was it taken at a show? If it was taken at a show, how did you do? But most importantly, give us some background information on the horse, your experience riding the horse, and when the video was taken. Same thing in your jump video. If you are planning on jumping at the makeover, we need to see a video of you jumping a course of 2.6 or higher taken within the past 2 years. It doesn't have to be at a competition. It can be at home or at a lesson, but it has to have been taken within the past 2 years, and it needs to be a full course where all of the jumps are 2.6 or higher. We don't offer any jumping disciplines lower than 2.6 at the makeover, which is why we ask that all your jumps in your video are 2.6 or higher, so that you can show us that you're going to be able to jump a full course of 2.6 come October, that is something that you already have experience doing. Same thing, you're going to want to provide the same information. Tell us about the horse you're riding, their background, your experience riding them, when the video was taken. And then the discipline video. So this can double. So if you're riding in dressage and you ride a dressage test in your flat video, you can use the same video here. If you are doing eventing and your jump video shows both show jumping and cross country, you can put the same video here in the same comments. But if you're doing something like barrel racing, you're going to have a separate flat video, and then you can show us you doing your run as your discipline video. Ranch work, show us you working some cows in your discipline video, and then you'll have your basic flat work video. Polo, same thing. Show us either you playing polo or some stick and ball work. Whatever it is, this should be discipline specific and show off your skills in the discipline that you've indicated interest in. In some areas, that's going to double between your jump video and your discipline video, or it might double for your flat video and your discipline video. Your dressage, if you feel like your flat video adequately shows your skills in dressage, absolutely the two videos can be the same. And then we have our additional video section. This is if there's just something else you'd like to show. Maybe you've been working with your makeover hopeful and you have a cool little clip you want to show us. Or you have something that is over 2 years old, but you're like, hey, I competed at prelim 5 years ago. Here's a video of me. Anything that you think would be helpful for the application committee to see that might not necessarily fit the requirements of these other videos, but might help them get a little bit more background information.
That could be a cool place to put, if you competed in a past makeover and have taken a couple of years off, then definitely drop your old makeover video in there.
Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna put that here. That's gonna wrap up the video section. Again, this is super important. Make sure we can see you clearly. Upload your videos to the highest quality that YouTube or wherever you're uploading them will allow. Make sure they fit that 2-year requirement. Make sure you're showing everything that needs to be seen. Please film it horizontally. Please don't use like TikTok. That's not the format for this. Like this really does need to be an extensive video that shows your experience.
And video is video. Video is not a video of photos.
Yes,
we get that a lot every year and it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
we want to see the whole enchilada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, slideshows will not work. Has to be a video of you riding, preferably not on your makeover hopeful. Like some level of green is absolutely okay. We don't expect everyone to be on a schoolmaster, but your horse should be well trained to really be able to highlight your riding. Then we have the veterinary recommendation upload. You do not necessarily have to upload this in order to submit your application. There will be another spot for you to upload that if you don't have it at the time of submission, but it's obviously always easier to do it when you're submitting it. Same thing, you'll just pick the file from your computer, your phone, or wherever you're doing this, and upload that there. We've already gone over the vet recommendation a bit. It's not, not anything comprehensive, has nothing to do with the horse itself, because we know that there's plenty of you that are applying that have not acquired your horses yet. So you're not required to have already gotten your makeover eligible horse at the time of application submission. This vet recommendation letter is purely based off of you and your vet acknowledging that you have the knowledge and resources to care for a horse that's transitioning into a new career. And then the entry section, this is where you're going to tell us basically how many horses you plan on bringing and in what capacity, because we offer 3 different entry types. You have your individual entry, your team captain entry, and your team member entry. Everyone is going to pay a one-time yearly, but one time, regardless of how many horses you're bringing, application fee. That is $200 between January 2nd and January 20th. And then after that, for individuals and team captains, it's $150 per horse. Team members do not pay per horse. That is the responsibility of the team captain. Our rule book has tons of information on what a team entry consists of. But if this is where you're going to let us know that I'm going to bring 2 individual horses and select which saddle pad. And so everyone can be associated with up to 3 horses, whether that's a mix of individual team captain and team member, all individual, all team captain, all team member, but you cannot be associated with more than 3 horses. So if I'm a team captain, I'm also going to select my saddle pad. I'm going to give it a team name. I'm just going to go ahead and put Team RRP. And you're going to
have an opportunity to do something fun.
I normally put Team Burbs. And I'm going to say that Kristen Bentley is my team member. List the full name. If you're a team captain, list the full name of your team members, whether there's one or multiple. Put all of them over there so that we can match them up later. If you're a team member, you're going to put the name of your team captain here. So this is going to go ahead and calculate your entry fees. Again, this is right here is including that. So this is the $150 per horse and your $200 application fees. So in registration fees, so application fees and horse registration fees, I'm bringing 3 horses as an individual and team captain. That's going to cost me $650. That is due no later than 5 p.m. on January 20th. After that, that is going to go up to $750 because the late application fee is $300, not $200. So this should not be allowing me to submit. But Jen might have helped me out there. So right now you should only be seeing this save application option. But come January 2nd, you'll see submit application. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And hopefully I'm not logged out.
Oh, you're on the test site. I was like, how are you doing this? Okay.
And so once you hit submit, it should automatically take you to the waiver. This is, again, one of those 4 requirements we talked about earlier. I still can't type. So you're going to need to make sure that you read through this thoroughly and initial and sign everywhere you need to. If you're a junior, your parents will need to sign this for you, and there is a section for minors as well. I can never remember our address. Emergency contact.
Oh, I'll take care of it.
Okay. So this is the parent or guardian section. So if you're a junior, you're going to need to fill out this section of the waiver. This is our COVID-19 section. All sections are required. Right, and submit that waiver. Great. And then it's going to take you to check out. It has my magazine subscription there. But otherwise, you're only going to see this step come January. Right now, all you can do is save your application. You can't submit it, so you won't see this then. This is a fake credit card, so I can't actually place the order. But that is how you will pay for that. You don't necessarily have to do it at the time of submission. You can come back and do that later. So I'm going to go back to the portal. And now I can see my 2 entries. It's allowing me to sign my participation agreement and pay my fees. There will be a checklist here come January, and it'll tell you you've submitted your application. We have your vet recommendation letter. You've paid your fees, you've signed your participation agreement. If we're missing any of those, the box will be unchecked, and you'll be able to do that here. So there is that pay my fees button, so you can go ahead and do that anytime. You can sign your participation agreement at any time. And there will also be a button for you to upload that recommendation. This also will not be available to you until January. And at that point, if you want to, you can register your horse. If you don't have your horse, that's perfectly fine. But if you do, go ahead and get them registered. You'll just hit register a thoroughbred and go, and I'll take you to the horse registration form. That is not available yet, so I'm not going to try to do that yet. Let's see here. What else? So that is the application. Payment and horse registration you will not have access to until January. Everything else you should be able to just get started on now if you want to. So what happens once your application is submitted? Once that gets submitted, you will get an email confirmation saying it has been, and it'll have all that information in there. So check over that email, make sure everything looks correct. If you hit submit and you don't get that email, check your junk folder. If it's not there, send me an email, because that might mean that we haven't gotten it. That is your confirmation that your submission has gone through. Once we get that, I'm going to look at it as well as some other volunteers and coworkers for those 4 basic requirements. We're going to look to make sure we have your payment, that we have your videos, that they meet the basic requirements and are accessible. Your participation agreement is there and filled out, and your vet recommendation is there and it meets the requirements. If all 4 of those things are there, we're going to assign it to the committee. Our application committee is made up of makeover officials, past makeover competitors, people that have experience with the event, but are not competing in it in the year that they serve on the committee. And they have sufficient experience in the discipline that you have chosen. And they will be able to look over your application and make the decision of whether or not you will have a safe and successful experience retraining a horse with the goal of competing in the Thoroughbred Makeover. So it's all with your best interest in mind. Those are not staff members. Everyone that makes up the application committee are not staff members. They are volunteers. They are chosen by us, people that we know have the experience and knowledge with the event and with our disciplines to be able to make those decisions, but they are not us. That is the other thing though, if they look at your application and they feel like there is not enough there to make a decision, they're going to come back to me and say, hey, I need more video, or I need more context. Can they tell me a little bit more about their experience in X? Can they tell me a little bit more about their experience with thoroughbreds or with green horses? You know, their application is missing a bit of information. That might be when I come back to you and say, hey, the committee has requested X. And it's going to be important that you get that to me if you want them to be able to make a decision. If you say, I can't, you know, the ground is frozen, I can't get you new video, then I'm going to probably tell you, all right, we're going to have to put you on wait list pending. And once you can get more video, once you can get more information, the committee will take a look. But right now they don't feel like they have sufficient information to make a decision. So it's super, super important that you give us as much information as possible, that you make sure those videos are the best that they can be and they meet our requirements as well. And then from there, they're going to make their decision, and decisions will be announced on February 15th. So that is the application process. Do you feel like I have missed anything you want to add before we move on to questions?
No, we've had a ton of questions come in. So I think that was a very comprehensive look at the application. And this is why we have the drafting period, because it is a pretty intense application, because, we just want everybody to be successful and safe and have a good time with this. And of course, set the horses up for a good transition. So that's why there's so many steps to this application, to do what we can to make sure that everybody has a good time.
Yeah. I think that's an important reminder too, is that this isn't just a horse show. It's an event that serves a charitable mission. So we have to make sure that these thoroughbreds are represented in the best possible light. So that is why we have such a comprehensive application process. We're not trying to make it complicated for you guys or make it difficult. We just need to gather this information. It is not a standard horse show.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to jump over to Facebook and start with some of those questions, because we've had a lot come in. So if you guys have more questions, definitely drop them into either the Zoom chat or the Facebook chat. We'll start with Joseph. I have a thoroughbred I was going to use for the makeover last year, and she ended up getting sick. I would love to use her for this year's makeover. Would she still be eligible? And then he added it was in 2020. So the eligibility rules for each year are spelled out in the rule book. For this year, for the retiring racehorse division, those horses need to have posted a workout or raced after July, correct me if I'm wrong, July 1st, 2021. So if that horse was pointed towards the 2020 makeover, I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's probably a good chance that that horse does not have the workouts or the races that she needs. And of course, if she had more than 15 rides prior to December 1st of this year, she's also ineligible. So to determine that, just go to the rule book, check those eligibility rules, and see if that horse meets those criteria. Gonna say, without knowing any more details, probably not, but look again and might still work out. Thanks, Joseph. Let's see, Ariana, we jumped that question in earlier and she said, thank you. Katie, I think Katie responded that we answered these questions. She asked these before you finished the video section. Let's see. Haley, this is a good one. Do we need competitive or show videos for our discipline-specific videos? What if you do those disciplines, but you've never had the chance to compete or get video at shows? Those videos do not have to come from shows. Totally understand if you show without a helpful videographer to follow you around all the time. That was me for many years. So totally okay if those discipline-specific or jumping videos do not come from horse shows.
And sometimes shows are just not the best place to get a video either. Like you might not be able to get close enough to get a good view. So if you're doing competitive trail and you can set up some obstacles in your arena at home and show us, you build your own obstacle course and go through it. If you're doing dressage, run through a dressage test at home or make up a dressage test, show us those 20-meter circles, show us a free walk kind of thing. It does not need to be at a competition. It just needs to show those discipline specific skills.
Yep. Yeah. It's more about the skills, less about the competition side. So Haley, hopefully that answers your question. Thanks for asking. That was a good one. A question from Katie. So we pay the horse fee before we know if we're accepted. I know that application fee isn't refundable, but if we are not accepted, do we get the horse fee refunded? Rayna, you know more about the refunds than I do.
So if you are not accepted, those registration fees, which includes both the application fee and the horse registration fee, are refundable minus $100 in total. Hold on, we have that posted on the website and in the rule book. Let's look here. Either way, if you're not accepted, there is a partial and significant refund of those fees. If you are accepted, as soon as you're accepted, those fees become non-refundable. We are more than happy to convert those fees to a donation and send you a tax receipt if you get accepted and you end up not finding a horse or ends up being just something that you cannot do, or your horse is not well suited for it, whatever the reason is, we are happy to convert that to a donation and send you a tax receipt. But as soon as you get that acceptance letter, those fees are no longer refundable. But should you get declined from the competition, you will receive a partial refund. And that refund schedule, as well as amount, is included in our rule book. So that is, well, this is all on. There we go. So if an application is accepted, it's non-refundable. If an application is not accepted, the registration fees will be returned minus a $50 processing fee. So if you apply to bring one horse, so you're going to spend $350 in registration fees, $200 application fee, $150 horse registration fee, you're going to get $300 back if your application is declined.
All right. Hopefully that answers Katie's question. Feel free to chime back in if you have a follow-up. All right, jumping over to the Zoom questions from Maria. And I think this is in regards to the broodmare division. She asks, I own the mare and I own the stallion and tried to breed live cover myself last year. The vet only did the preg check. The mare didn't take. Will she still be eligible? And if so, what documents, if any, do I need to produce? So we are assessing broodmare eligibility based entirely on, I scrolled to a different page in the rule book. Here it is. Mare produce record report in equine line. So if you reported the cover and it was a Jockey Club registered stallion and we can find that on equine line, you're good to go. You don't need to provide any documentation at all. That's going to be our source of truth because that is verified and backed up by the Jockey Club. So it's kind of comparable to how we find all the workouts and race records on Equibase. So that is like verifiable, recorded by Jockey Club.
Yeah, so it'll have to be through the Jockey Club. The breeding doesn't necessarily have to have taken, but it does need to have been reported.
All right, how many horses can you enter? I think we addressed this. This question came in before we got to this point, but we'll answer it again anyway. How many horses can you enter? And can you enter a horse in more than one division? So this is a little bit of like a semantics question. So we, for the sake of not confusing everybody, our divisions are going to be the retiring racehorse division and the broodmare division. So horses are eligible for one or the other. You cannot cross enter the same horse as a broodmare and a retiring racehorse. They have to go one track or the other. You can enter a horse in more than one discipline. You can enter up to two. You don't have to make that decision until August. So you have plenty of time to figure out what that horse is going to be good at and what that horse enjoys. And as we mentioned, you can be associated with up to 3 horses at the makeover. And you can mix and match. It can be 1 broodmare, 2 retiring racehorses, or however you want to split it up.
Yep.
All right. This was in relation to the video. Could we submit still photos such as zone finals if we don't have a video from there? So we mentioned earlier, they really need to be like videos. We don't want to see like a collection of a slideshow. But if you went to zone finals, I would definitely include that in the narrative section where you're describing your past experience. You don't have to have video to prove that you did a thing that you said you did. Always helpful if you have a show record that backs that up as well. But definitely include all that great information in the narrative portion. All right, let me go back to Facebook. All right, I think we've hit everything that's been submitted so far. So if anybody else has any other questions that they want to drop into either chat, Facebook or Zoom, we'll be happy to address those. If you're watching this on demand, especially if you're watching the Facebook replay, don't put those questions in Facebook if it is not Thursday evening because we won't see them. You can email questions to secretary@therrp.org. You can also use the contact us form on our website if we did not get to your question tonight. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so Maria, you need to have that that cover report is what we're going to use to verify.
All right, is that everybody?
I think so. Everybody who tuned in, thank you very much for hanging out with us this evening. And yes, we will work on getting this uploaded to our YouTube as soon as we can. Hopefully I can get to it tomorrow morning. It'll be there for everybody. And if you guys have any other questions along the way, definitely don't hesitate to reach out, because we want to see everybody be successful, and we'd love to have you join us for 2023.
Mhm. Oh, well, we have one final question.
Oh, we have more coming in on Facebook too, so that's fine. We're going to hang out for a while.
Katie wants to know, how does the committee decide? The committee decides based off of the information that you put in your application. You really need to be showing them that you have either the experience or the resources and the support system to safely and successfully retrain a horse for a second career and bring them to a big competition and be safe and successful. Successful doesn't necessarily mean making it into the finale. It just means having fun and being safe and representing the breed well.
It's not equitation. I always add that, because people are like, well, like my heels come up and my hand, and it's, no one's judging equitation for this.
No. Are you safe and balanced and giving your horse the correct cues? That's what they're going to be looking for. And video isn't everything, but it is certainly a big part. So you're going to submit your videos, but they're also going to be reading that narrative. So if you feel like your videos, yeah, they show your riding, but you really need to expand on your experience, that's what that narrative section is for. Tell us how long you've been riding, how many green horses you've ridden, or tell us about your trainer that has a ton of experience with green horses and going to be helping you in the process. That is how they decide. But the big thing is, if you don't include it in your application, they do not know. So some people will submit very bare bones applications, and the committee's not going to have enough information to be able to make that decision that this person is going to be able to safely and successfully retrain a horse for this competition. So any information you can provide needs to go in there. Give the committee as much information as you can to show them that this is something that you have the resources to partake in.
We have another question on Facebook. Does everyone need a jump video regardless of what discipline you choose? No, only if you indicate on your application that you have experience or that you've designated a jumping discipline as your like primary area of expertise. So if you are a dressage, polo, ranch, barrels, freestyle, pick and wall, trail, any of those, you do not need to provide a jumping video. So yes, if you like to keep your feet on the ground, like myself, do not worry about gutting out onto a 2-6 course. You are good to go.
But the other thing is too, if you are someone that's going to put dressage down, but you think you might, like, you have experience in jumping and you might want to jump at the makeover, that additional video section is where you're going to want to include a jumping video so that you can preemptively get your jumping restriction lifted. Anyone that selects a discipline other than a jumping discipline and does not supply a jumping video will automatically have a limited non-jumping restriction. So if you want to get that lifted now, use the additional video section.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Yeah, if like I enter as a ranch rider and then take a lot of lessons and feel confident and competent at 2-6, I need to prove that I can do that before.
Yeah, that's the one caveat of like, okay, I selected dressage, but now, or I selected ranch and now I want to do show hunters. You can, but only after we have that video and the committee has looked at it and lifted that restriction.
Right. All right, here's another question on Zoom. This is a little bit of a long one, so I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but when you're in the application and you're designating, you know, have you been compensated for teaching any lessons, you don't necessarily need to prove to us that you are a professional in terms of your narrative or your videos. That is just to make sure that you are going into the right division for your final entry. So that's to make sure. Go ahead, Rayna.
Yeah, so, but what I'm reading here is you've been compensated, you've been getting paid for teaching lessons to your friends, which yes, would make you a professional. It does not, being a professional in our competition does not hinder you in any way. It doesn't, juniors, professionals, amateurs, and teams all compete against each other. So it doesn't mean that you're competing against, you know, a higher level of competition. Everyone competes against each other. A junior won the whole thing this past year. So your actual designation does not matter in terms of that. It's just for special awards. So we have special awards for top amateur, top junior, top team, but everyone competes against each other. They are not split up into divisions. So if you've been compensated for giving your friends lessons, that would make you a professional.
So yeah, so yes, you're a professional, but you don't have to worry that like the question here, I have zero record in competing as a professional. That's okay. Like we're not going to look at that and be like, it's fishy. That's
and that
just
might
to
be
make sure we
something
put you in the right
to
place.
put in your narrative too. If you're worried that, like, you could put that in that additional section, like, I'm a professional because I've been giving lessons to my friends, but at this level. And
yeah. Katie asks, how many are chosen to compete? That's not really ever a goal number that we try to hit. So, you know, and it's not like a percentage either. So we're just taking those who appear on their application that they're going to be successful. I would say we know that we can't handle like 1,200 people. We haven't had that be an issue yet. So there's not really a great answer to that question.
Yeah, there's not a solid number.
Yeah, it's not ever like, you know, we've reached our quota of 400, so we're going to cap it. Like, that's not anything that anybody needs to worry about. So
yeah. If you meet the requirements and you submit your application on time, you're going to be accepted. It's not going to be oh no, you know, we've hit this cap and it's time to start declining people. That's not how we do things. That's going to come in after. If we have a large number of accepted applicants, that's when the wait list comes in for those that submit late applications. But we do not have a hard, fast number in terms of how many people we will accept.
This is a good question. What's a team?
So for the most part, I'm going to say that that's covered in the rule book. But a team is just another way that you can compete. Team is made up of at least 2 accepted trainers. So any person that wants to be on a team must submit an application. And that is instead of competing as an individual where, let's say, you're entered in competitive trail and dressage. If you're entered in an individual, you yourself would be the only person that can ride that horse in the makeover. If you're entered as a team, there's going to be a team captain and at least 1 team member. You're going to share in the retraining process. So this is a lot of times something that college programs will do, high school programs will do, lesson programs will do, or just some friends will do to participate in the process together. Makes it a bit more affordable and collaborative and fun. And in that case, once you get to the actual makeover, whatever disciplines that horse is entered in, at least 2 people from that team must ride the horse in that discipline. So if you're doing dressage, we have the demonstration ride and the test. So team captain's going to do, let's say, the test, and team member is going to do the demo ride. And in competitive trail, you're going to switch halfway. So that's the synopsis of a team. But there's some more information about that in the rule book, and I'm also happy to answer any other questions about teams over email.
That was a good overview. Here's a fun question from Haley. If you work at a ranch and you're getting compensated for that work, does that count towards that open or that professional status? And I think that might take more questions from us to say, like, what I think that's going to depend on what your duties are at the ranch.
Yeah.
Like, if you're hired to just feed cattle on foot, then no. But if part of your duties are training horses, then yes. So Rayna, you can probably expand on that a little bit better based on the definition of a professional.
Sorry, I was just answering another question. So yeah, that's really going to depend on what your duties are. So if it's just based off of care, whether that's cattle or horses, then, and there's no riding involved, no training of horses involved, then it would make you an amateur. But if part of your duties are cattle sorting and you're going to be on your horse and you're getting paid for that part of it, then that would make you a professional because you're being paid to ride. And
this is good because I have this question too.
Yeah, any instance in which you're being paid, this is just for we understand that, like, especially in some of the Western disciplines, what classifies you as a pro versus an amateur is very different from what classifies you as a pro versus an amateur in, say, hunters or jumpers or eventing. But for our event, we go off of mostly, for the most part, USCF rules. And that is pretty cut and dry. If you are being paid or compensated in any shape or form for riding, training horses, or training people how to ride horses, that makes you a professional. But if you're mucking stalls, dumping grain, anything like that.
Tractor, yeah.
Yeah.
So Haley, I don't know if that answers your question. That was sort of like, oh, now we have questions question. But if you do want to clarify that further, you can always email Rayna at secretary@therrp.org. Yes. Yeah. You're pretty much hitting it on the head there. So she says if you're just feeding or grooming, you'd be an amateur. And if you're riding and helping to train, that would put you on the professional track. That's a good short answer. Yes. Yep. And this is also not one of those things where, like, you know, if there's sort of a gray area, like, that's going to flag your application and we'd be like, no. That would be something that if the committee's like, this doesn't 100% line up, we'll just ask to clarify and just to make sure we have you in the right spot. And
that is the thing too, of like, at the end of the day, the application committee is going to have final say. So if you say, you know, but I consider myself an amateur, but I get paid to do X, Y, Z, your status is going to be a professional with us. If you say that you're an amateur and we have someone send us an email halfway through the year that says, hey, so-and-so got paid for teaching lessons to X person, and here's documentation of that. And this does happen. We will talk to you about it, determine whether or not it's been a code of conduct violation, and we will change your status to the appropriate status. So make sure you're being as honest as possible when it comes to that. Right. Yeah. As long as it's clear you're not trying to slide one over on us, like everything. Yeah. So, and we know things happen. I'll just add a note to that too, because I know, especially in barrel racing, this gets a little confusing because like a lot of people are like, well, I'm not trying to fill my pro card, you know, or I don't have a pro card, so I'm an amateur. And even if you're not riding on that pro card, if you're still a professional by this competition's rules, that would put you in professional. So it is completely independent of whether or not you have that professional card or not in barrel racing, just as a pre-clarification, because that question comes up every year. All right, I think we've finally exhausted the questions. All right. Have not exhausted us, so we love talking about the makeover. But yeah, if any other questions come up, email secretary@therrp.org. If you post them on social media, chances are we're not going to catch it because we've got a lot of stuff going on there. So definitely the best way to get an accurate answer is to email secretary@therrp.org. And consult your rulebook. Yes, always consult that rulebook. Yep. If anybody would like some light reading tonight, curl up with that rulebook and let us know what you think. Yeah, happy to answer your questions, here to help. Please, please, please email me. Please don't use social media. It's not because we're trying to be difficult. We're just trying to avoid you getting misinformation from well-meaning trainers, because our information does change year to year. So like Kristen said, secretary@therrp.org, all throughout the year. Happy to help. All right, everybody, I think we're going to wrap it. Thanks very much for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you, guys. Look forward for seeing your application soon. Yep. All right, have a good night.